Well, they're back. 200 miles in. It's time to talk about them again. This isn't the 2019. This is the 2020 165 Alpha 1. And 200 miles in, no issues. I've had time to ride both sleds, the 2020 and the 2019, and enough to say that I don't really want to say this, but they're pretty much the same sled. There's a little bit different feel in the 2019. 2019 seems to have a little bit more top end grunt. But that's a real debate. I wouldn't really be able to say that. Only thing I will say is this handle is just fucking garbage. The two 2020s and the 2019, every single knot has slipped out of these handles, and I've had to take them apart and re-spool the recoil and slip the cord back through on all three of them over that. As far as the shock setup, after tuning them the initial time, they seem to hold their air pressure at altitude and with the cold, which on the original float threes was a big issue because it seemed like as soon as you set them, as soon as you get on the mountain, they were a different pressure. These, not so much. What else? Running, driving. Oh, some people were worried about the track delaminating. Hasn't been an issue so far. Track's been working pretty good. No complaints. By far my biggest complaint would be the snow flaps on all of them. They act like a big anchor. And you won't notice it until you get in the real deep, fresh powder. And then it just starts acting like an anchor when you start turning and getting up on end. So all of them no longer have flaps on them. All of them have retied knots and the recoils have been fixed. What else? After a couple drops and a couple that would even consider maybe breaking a 2-skid rail, or at least been in one, no issues with the skid thus far. Even on the 165, no issues. On the 2019, I did manage to bend this lower control arm, not this 2020, but on the 2019. I was going up a single track trail and hit a rock, and sled came out from underneath me and slammed right into a tree. No big deal. The control arm's not bent enough to actually affect the ski stance or any alignment, so I'm gonna run it for the rest of the season. And it's not really that bent. It was a pretty good hit, so I wasn't really all that worried about it. And as far as my opinion on how the sled rides, the backcountry, it rides great. The sled, when you get it on in, it's a real Tippy controllable sled. So if I had to compare it to anything, I'd compare it more to the Polaris Chaos, where it's a lot of fun to ride, but it's still, a Polaris RMK where once you get it on its side, it stays there. Unlike the Ski-Doo T-Motion, where it seems like as soon as you get it on its side, it wants to immediately go back down on two skis. So I will say that the Alpha 1 in early snow, and now that we're coming up on the middle of December, rides really good. I am worried that in the spring powder it's going to ride not as well, but we're not there yet. As of right now, when you tip the sled over, it stays there. No issues with it trying to come back up over uneven terrain, whether it be other tracks in the environment, mounds, rocks, trees, small trees, of course. Whatever it is, so far, no issues. I really do like the C-Tech 2 motor. Little to no issues with it. It has lots of good bottom end, mid-range, and top end torque. Haven't found a spot yet where I'm really just craving for more power. Even with the stock setup. Even since we started riding in early October, no big casualties as far as the sled's concerned. The skis got a little chewed up, but sliding over rocks, what do you expect? And on the 2019, I did somehow manage to break a ski handle, but $15, and that was no deal. As far as burning oil, everyone made it sound like these things burn loads and loads of oil, and out of 3 sleds, I've been riding since October, and I still have not successfully, since we bought the sleds, burned through 2 gallons of oil. And when I mean bought the sleds, I mean when the sleds came to us with half a tank of oil, we filled them up with 1 gallon and haven't burned through the other gallon yet. And we've already got 200 miles on each sled. So these burning oil are burning lots of oil. Just really hasn't been the case. As far as fuel, they're pretty average, not great, not awful, just average. And it doesn't burn that much oil, so that's a plus. Keep down on some funds buying the oil. So really, besides the handle loop coming loose, the stupid snow flap that act more like an anchor than anything. What else? It's been about it. As far as riding this thing is a really tippy, controllable sled, but if you're one of those people that doesn't watch where you put your weight when you're transferring, this sled is very sensitive. Meaning, if you transfer too soon to one side to the other, going downhill and you're not ready, that'll dump you off every time. That's more of a rider error than anything bad to say about the sled. Like I said, there isn't much bad I've been able to find about these sleds after 200 miles. Other than snow flap, pull handle, and, bogging issue. I've had this come up in the 2019 once. I had a bogging, no power issue, anything off idle bogged down, and just running real bad. And we'd been riding in the backcountry all day, and I actually had the idea to take off the cap. That fixed my problem. I don't know how. I'm guessing that this system, being as the cap's not vented, isn't vented, and they are vapor locking. That would be my first guess. I don't think it's in the tuning because it's only done it once, and as soon as I took the cap up and ran it with the cap off for a little bit, just sitting there idling, the problem went away. If anyone has any other information on what it could be caused that bogging issue that taking the cap off seemed to fix, leave it down in the comments. I'm very interested to see what you guys got to say about that, because I've never really had a vapor lock situation on anything newer than like an F body, the old F body chassis. It was a big deal on the couches and stuff, but that's been a long time ago. I'd never noticed it on my Pro Climb. So, who knows, maybe they changed something in the Ascender. I will say that the covers that come for these sleds are absolute garbage. I've had issues with schmutting up my sled. It's getting on my nerves. But otherwise, that great sled, still happy. If you're looking at a 2020 or a 2019 Alpha 1, you'll be pleasantly surprised with it and very happy with it. Peace.